Heartwarming revelation. Nurse's life-changing blood donation saves single dad CEO. Amazing journey begins. In a bustling mid-size American city, Jake sat in his sleek corner office, surrounded by the hum of phones ringing and laptops clicking. Just moments ago, he had gotten news that sent his heart into a tailspin. He needed emergency surgery. All the late nights spent dreaming of escaping his cramped childhood home felt insignificant now. He could almost hear Emma's laughter echoing through his mind, the sweet sound of hope that kept him fighting every day. Would he leave her alone in this world? As panic set in, the walls of that office felt more like a prison than the pinnacle of his dreams. Meanwhile, across town, Sarah stood at her nursing station, tending to patients with a warm smile and a determined spirit. She had grown up with nothing but warmth and resilience, raised by a single mother who taught her the importance of helping others. That day, she was at a community health event, raising awareness for those in dire need, when she heard of Jake's plight. The thought of a little girl possibly losing her father turned her stomach, sparked flames of compassion in her heart. Without hesitation, Sarah made the decision that would change both their lives forever: a life-saving blood donation. As fate intertwined their paths, Jake's recovery forged an unexpected bond between him and Sarah. In the weeks that followed, their late-night conversations became a refuge amidst the chaos. Sarah often shared stories of her community, filled with laughter and resilience, while Jake opened up about the weighty pressure of being a CEO. Moments turned to minutes, then hours, as they shared dreams and fears under the glow of city lights. She listened to him talk about dodging investors, the look in his eyes revealing vulnerability he seldom showed. He admired her indomitable spirit, echoing the same warmth he wanted to give Emma. But just as the warmth of their friendship grew, a misunderstanding brought tension that loomed like a dark cloud over their bond. Jake's attempt to help her professionally out of goodwill and gratitude was met with suspicion. What followed was a painful conversation, revealing the biases and struggles around their social standings. Sarah felt the sting of judgment not just from Jake's world but from her community, which rallied around her. It became evident that sometimes help can feel like a weight. In the heart of their growing turmoil, an unexpected confrontation erupted. Investors had caught wind of their connection, casting doubts about Jake's integrity. He could see the skepticism in their eyes, their murmurs thick with judgment. Despite this, he wasn't ready to lose Sarah, not the friend, not the lifeline. The fear of failing Emma pushed him to confront the truth he'd been avoiding. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they faced the possibility of losing everything they had built: friendship, respect, dreams, their worlds began to collide in a way that neither could have anticipated. In a public forum that would unveil all their vulnerabilities, Jake and Sarah stood together, ready to face their pasts. Would they find the courage to confront their fears and the strength to support each other? As the room swelled with tension, the air crackled with unanswered questions. Their journey was just beginning, and the answers lay tangled within the echoes of their childhoods. The air in the small conference room felt thick as Jake and Sarah stood in front of a group of investors, a mixture of curiosity and skepticism etched on their faces. Shadows danced across the walls, and all Jake could think about was his stomach churning with fear, not just for himself, but for Emma, for Sarah. He had to do this right. He owed them that much. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady but quiet. He could feel Sarah's presence beside him, a reassuring warmth that anchored him in the rising tide of doubt. He shifted slightly, glancing at her. Her face was focused, determined, mirroring her passion for her work and her commitment to the people she dedicated her life to helping. She was a fighter, and that gave him courage. "We know there have been concerns about my relationship with Sarah. I want to be completely transparent here." He took a deep breath, the words tumbling out, a mixture of confessions and reasoning. "Sarah didn't just come into my life by chance. Her donation saved my life. She believed in me when I needed it the most. She inspires me to be better, not just as a CEO, but as a father, as a man. A murmur rippled through the investors, skepticism not yet fading. Sarah stepped forward, her presence commanding. I've devoted my career to helping those in need. I grew up in a world where $5 was a luxury, where hope sometimes felt like an unreachable dream. But I've made it my mission to change that. Her eyes captured Jake's for a heartbeat, fueling him with strength. If we want to make a difference, it starts with leaning on each other. That's the kind of leader Jake is. Some investors exchanged glances, their expressions softening slightly. It wasn't their usual way of doing business, but something about this felt raw and real. Jake could feel the shift. Maybe, just maybe, they were beginning to see this as more than just a transaction. It was about lives, connections, and real change. As discussions continued, Jake found himself tangled up in thoughts. The pressure he had felt before started to ease, replaced with an unfamiliar sense of sharing a purpose, of belonging, like they were no longer alone islands desperately trying to bridge a gap. Sarah's words stayed with him, percolating in the air like steam from a warm cup of coffee on a cold morning. But when the meeting wrapped up, the investors were still hesitant. One abstaining vote could tip everything, but Jake didn't want to lean on Sarah's strength anymore. It was time to confront his past, the trauma from childhood that had shaped him into the man he was today. He gathered his courage, reminding himself of Emma's laughter, their little moments together, the focus of his efforts, the heartbeat of his life. Later that evening, as he returned home, Jake found Emma surrounded by her toys, her imagination alive and vibrant as always. He kneeled beside her, pulling her into a hug. "Hey, buddy," he said, voice thick with emotion. "How was your day?" "Super fun, Dad. But I missed you." She squeezed him tight, and in that moment, he felt like everything would be okay, as long as they had each other. But just as he was about to brush aside the worries of the day, his phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. For words that turned his heart cold. "Meet me tonight." Alone. His pulse quickened. Just what did they want, and why alone? In a world where hope felt elusive and connection was fragile, Jake realized they were not just facing external pressures, but shadows from the past threatening to emerge. Would this lead them toward a breakthrough, or open new wounds that would take them both down? As he contemplated his next move, uncertainty tangled with determination. One thing was clear: a confrontation loomed, and its outcome could change everything for him, for Sarah, and for Emma. What secrets would be unveiled at this clandestine meeting? Jake stared at the phone in disbelief, his heart racing. The weight of those 4 words hung heavy in the air, a dark cloud threatening to overshadow the moment he had just shared with Emma. He glanced over to her, still absorbed in her own world of make-believe, blissfully unaware. The innocence in her laugh seemed like a siren call, urging him to protect their little paradise from whatever storm was approaching. "Dad," Emma called, breaking his trance. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, buddy. Just thinking," Jake replied, forcing a smile as he pocketed his phone. He didn't want to panic her. The last thing he wanted was for one ominous message to ruin their evening together. After dinner, Jake tucked Emma into bed, the glow of her nightlight casting gentle shadows against the walls. He read her favorite story, the familiar words flowing from his lips, but his mind was miles away. He replayed the text in his head, guessing who could be behind it. Was it an old rival, someone from his past? Or perhaps a disgruntled investor who hadn't seen the promise in their project? The possibilities sent pricking sensations through his skin. "Dad," Emma's soft voice broke through his thoughts again. "Are you going to be home when I wake up?" "Of course, sweetheart. I'll always be here," Jake assured her, leaning down to kiss her forehead. As he left the room, he felt the cozy warmth of home shattering against the chill of uncertainty that loomed ahead. He paced his living room, trying to muster a plan. Meet alone? It could be a trap. Yet, he realized this was an opportunity as much as it was a threat. He needed to face whatever demons were waiting. The outcomes could impact everything: his relationship with Sarah, the investor's decision, and above all, his promises to Emma. The clock ticked steadily, each second echoing in his mind. He grabbed his keys and headed out, adrenaline surging through him. The night air was cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth of his house, and it reminded him that he was stepping into uncharted territory. Jake arrived at the dimly lit cafe, a place he hadn't visited in years. It felt hauntingly familiar, a backdrop for faded memories that stirred unease in his gut. Pushing through the door, he scanned the room, looking for anyone he might recognize. He found a corner table, the shadows hugging it closely. As he waited, he thought about Sarah, the resolve in her voice during the meeting, her willingness to dive into the unknown with him. But what if this meeting threatened to turn everything upside down? Would she understand the risks he was willing to take tonight? Or would it fracture their partnership? And then, from behind him, he heard a voice. "You look serious, Jake." Spinning around, he found Michael, a figure from his past he had desperately tried to forget. This was the last person he expected to see. The man wore a tight smile, but Jake could see the tension beneath it. "Why did you want to meet?" Jake questioned, already dreading the answer. Michael leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "There are things you don't know, about your project, about Sarah. Things you need to hear." In that moment, Jake's heart raced all over again. The pieces of his life were beginning to shift in a way he hadn't anticipated. What truths lay buried in this meeting? With every word Michael spoke, Jake felt the stakes rise. Was he ready for the revelations that awaited him? Would he be able to handle what was about to unfold? He took a deep breath, knowing he was at the brink of discovering something that could change everything once more. And as the cafe hummed around them, one thought echoed in his mind. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Jake sat across from Michael. The familiar face of a once-trusted colleague now felt like a weight pressing down on him. The cafe buzzed around them, coffee machines humming and vibrant chatter weaving in and out of the air, but Jake was spiraling deeper into the shadows looming in front of him. "Things I don't know? What do you mean?" His voice was steadier than he felt, laced with a hint of irritation. Michael's gaze held his, a blend of urgency and caution that set Jake's nerves on fire. "It's not just about your project," Michael continued, glancing around as if the shadows might be listening. "It's about Sarah. She's connected to someone who wants you out of the business. You think you've got this all figured out, but you're walking into a trap." Jake's stomach turned. He couldn't help but picture the sleepless nights he and Sarah had spent poring over plans, their dreams anchored in what they had created together. How could she be involved in anything threatening? "Why should I trust you after everything?" Jake challenged, his jaw tightening. The anger bubbling up felt like a betrayal of his instincts, but the news felt heavy and impossible to grasp. "Because I'm here to warn you," Michael replied, voice barely above a whisper, the urgency palpable. "I did some digging. Someone is moving against you, and Sarah's knowledge is at the center of it. She might not even know the full extent of it herself." The words sliced through Jake. Could he really believe anything Michael said? Sure, they used to be friends, but past betrayal clouded anything deep they once shared. Yet, a part of him couldn't ignore the pattern emerging. It fit too closely to the strange feelings he had been pushing away. The backdoor conversations, the hushed phone calls Sarah had taken. "Why now?" Jake pressed, needing to hear the motives. "What is your angle in all this?" "Redemption," Michael said, his eyes softening just a fraction. Jake hesitated, seeing a glimmer of the old man he had once trusted buried beneath the walls they had built against one another. "You know what they say? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I made mistakes, but I don't want to see you get hurt. Not like I did." Just as Jake was about to respond, a flash of movement caught his eye. Sarah entered the cafe, looking for him, her face brightening at the sight. Jake's heart sank, conflicting emotions swirling within him. Did she sense the tension? Did she know he was unraveling? Michael gripped Jake's arm, forcing his eyes back to him. "You've got to be careful. They are watching," he said urgently. "Who is watching?" Jake whispered, torn between the warmth of Sarah's presence and the bleak warning in Michael's eyes. During the brief seconds that followed, Jake felt time suspend. He had to choose his next words carefully, not just for himself, but for everything he was building with Sarah. Did she deserve to know what was unfolding before her? "Jake," Sarah called out, her voice cutting through the haze. She approached, confusion clouding her green eyes. "What is going on? You look tense." All at once, Jake felt the world narrowing. He was standing at a precipice, teetering between trust and suspicion. What would he reveal? What would he conceal? As he looked between Michael's wary expression and Sarah's questioning gaze, he realized the threads of his life were about to tangle in ways he hadn't anticipated. "Sarah," he started, the words trembling at the edge of his tongue. "We need to talk about your project and how deep this really goes." And with that, a new storm began to brew, raising questions he could no longer ignore. What lay ahead would test everything they had built, for better or for worse. Would they stand together, or would the harrowing truth tear them apart? Jake could barely hold Sarah's gaze. Her eyes, bright and trusting, felt like an anchor in the tumult of his thoughts. But the weight of Michael's warning threatened to drag him under. The air between them crackled with unspoken words, each heartbeat echoing the chaos within him. "Jake, what is it?" she pressed, her voice tinged with concern. He noticed the way her fingers fidgeted with the fringe of her sweater, a telltale sign of her rising anxiety. He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I've learned some things about your project, about people involved." The uncertainty hung in the air like a heavy fog. He wanted to be honest, but the truth felt like a knife's edge, ready to cut through the very fabric of their reality. "Are you talking about Michael?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing. "You know how he is. He has always had a grudge." "No, it's bigger than that," Jake interjected, frustration bubbling over. "This involves threats to my position." And he drew a deep breath, steadying himself. "You might not be as safe as you think." "What do you mean?" She crossed her arms, her body instinctively pulling away from him, a barrier between them that hadn't existed moments before. "The project isn't just about funding or clients. It's about influence. And right now, someone is using you as a pawn." Jake watched her expression shift, a mix of disbelief and fear flickering in her eyes. "Michael said you might not even know what is happening." "You can't be serious," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just trying to build something for us. How can I be a part of that?" Jake swallowed hard, feeling a rush of protectiveness mixed with desperation. "I don't know yet, but I want to find out. We need to work together on this. I can't lose you to something that I'm barely grasping." The silence hung heavy, stretching out as Sarah looked beyond him, her mind clearly racing. Jake's heart thudded in his chest. Would the truth drive them further apart, or pull them together? Just then, Michael's interjection broke the moment's tension, his voice sharp. "Jake, we're running out of time. You need to be upfront. The sooner she knows, the better." Jake felt caught between two worlds, the warmth of Sarah's belief in their dreams and the chill of betrayal lurking in the shadows. "Sarah," he finally said, his tone softer, "if you know anything, if there is something you haven't told me, now is the time." Her eyes brimmed with uncertainty, and Jake saw the flicker of vulnerability, that same look that always made his heart ache with longing. "I've kept some things to myself," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I thought I was protecting you by hiding from me," he countered, feeling the tension spike. He reached out, grabbing her hand. "This isn't just about you or me. It's our future." Sarah searched his face, feeling every ounce of urgency between them. "I didn't want to burden you with my fears. We are supposed to be building something together." They were at a crossroads, truth dangling above them like a ripe fruit ready to fall, and he had no idea if it would nourish them or poison their bond. "Exactly," he urged, squeezing her hand as if he could transfer all his resolve into her. "But we can't do this alone. I need to know everything. I don't want to be blindsided." As the weight of their secrets hung in the air, the cafe buzzed on around them, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in their lives. The world outside carried on, oblivious to the seismic shift happening in this small corner of their lives. "Let us go somewhere private," Sarah finally said, determination returning to her voice. "If we're going to figure this out, we can't do it here." Jake nodded, relief flooding him amidst the chaos. They needed a plan. But the moment they stepped outside, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger loomed just out of sight. Would the secrets they unearthed bring them closer together, or would they unravel everything they had built? Their journey was only beginning, and the raw threads of trust and doubt were entwined in a way they could no longer ignore. As they left the cafe, his heart raced not just from fear, but from hope. What awaited them down this uncertain road could change everything. The stakes were rising, and so were the questions that plagued him. What shadows lingered just beyond the path they were about to tread? The streets outside the cafe felt alive, teeming with people, but devoid of clarity for Jake and Sarah. Each step they took seemed to resonate with unspoken words. The sun lingered high, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement, mirroring the uncertainty that loomed over them. Where should we go? Jake asked, glancing at Sarah's face. He could see her mind working through the knot of fear and determination that had taken residence there. There's a park nearby, she suggested, her voice steadier now. It's quieter. We can talk there. Jake nodded, desperate for solitude where truth could spill without prying eyes. The park felt like a sanctuary, a world away from the bustling city. As they stepped inside, the chirping birds and rustling leaves enveloped them, creating a cocoon that shielded their vulnerability. Sitting on a bench, Jake took a moment to collect his thoughts. The fresh air felt good. The urgency lingered, though. Okay, this is it, he said, looking directly into Sarah's eyes. We need to dig deep. What are you hiding from me? Taking a deep breath, Sarah twirled a loose thread on her sweater. I didn't think it was that important to mention, she said, her voice quiet. But lately, I've been receiving calls, people asking about the funding, asking about contacts. Who? What did they want? His heart raced, and he could feel the weight of her words sitting heavy in the pit of his stomach. I don't know, Jake. Just vague questions, nothing concrete. I thought it was just curiosity or due diligence, she confessed, her eyes lowering as if fearing the admission would crack the fragile shell of their world. Sarah, it's more than that. He leaned closer, urgency flowing through him. These people have motives, and I'm afraid they're not good ones. This is serious. Her fingers trembled slightly, and Jake reached out, allowing their hands to intertwine. You're not just a player in this. You're the target, he said softly. If they think they can manipulate you, they won't hesitate. I wanted to believe I was doing okay. You know, making a difference, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't want to be involved in anything shady. I just want a chance to build something real with you. The pain in her voice pierced through him. He felt it tug at his heartstrings, each moment of fear resonating deep within. You are building something real, Sarah. Together, we can face whatever this is. But you have to trust me. She nodded, though her brow remained furrowed. What if I'm not strong enough? What if they take us down? Then we rise together. He squeezed her hand tighter, feeling her warmth blend with the cold reality surrounding them. You're not alone in this. However hard it gets, we will fight back. Suddenly, her expression shifted. Hope flickered like a candle in her eyes, a small flame igniting against the shadows. You really think we can fight them? Together? I know we can, he replied firmly. First, we need to gather all the information we can. We'll need a plan and allies. I'll reach out to some contacts I trust, people who can help us dig deeper into this. We can't let them think they can use you as a pawn without consequences. As realization washed over Sarah, Jake could see her breaking free from some inner chains she hadn't even acknowledged. The fear began to melt away, replaced by a determination he had hoped to ignite. But just as they settled into a shaky resolve, a commotion echoed through the park. Shouts rang out, and Jake turned instinctively as a figure approached someone he recognized. Michael, he muttered under his breath, tension prickling at the nape of his neck. Sarah's grip on his hand tightened. What is he doing here? Jake shot her a reassuring glance, but inside, that seed of uncertainty began to sprout again. Would Michael's presence heighten their struggles or provide the truth they desperately needed? As Michael strode closer, Jake could read in his eyes the weight of answers yet to be revealed. How would their confrontation turn the tides in the battle that loomed ahead? Michael approached with purpose, his strides confident, but his expression serious. The once vibrant park felt muted, every sound fading as Jake's heartbeat echoed in his ears. He could sense the tension in Sarah's grip, her anxiety matching his own. Jake, Michael said, his voice cutting through the stillness like a knife. I was looking for you. Why? What do you want? Jake replied, keeping his tone steady. He could feel the protective instinct surge inside him. He needed to shield Sarah from whatever storm Michael brought with him. Michael's gaze shifted between them, landing on Sarah with an intensity that made her curl in on herself. I know about the calls, Sarah, and I want to help, or at least get to the bottom of this. You know? Sarah's voice quivered, disbelief lacing her words. How? Who told you? Does it matter? We don't have time for that. Michael interrupted, urgency creeping into his tone. I've been hearing whispers. People are getting too curious, and it's not going to end well if we don't act fast. Jake straightened, taking Sarah's hand gently. So you're saying you're on our side? Michael took a breath, clearly weighing his words. I know I haven't been the friend you need, but I can help you navigate this. There are powerful people behind it all. Why should we trust you? Sarah shot back, pulling her hand away. The hurt etched across her face stung more than Jake expected. Last time we trusted you, it nearly cost us everything. Because I can give you information, he said, his voice sharp but earnest. I've got connections that can clear things up, but I need you both on board. We have to meet in a safe place. Jake's mind raced. The resolve they had just found together now stood on shaky ground. You want us to trust you based on what? Your vague promises? You could be the reason those people are after Sarah, he challenged. Michael sighed, his expression softening. I never wanted this, Jake. I got pulled in just like you. But continuing this fight alone will only make it worse. Sarah looked back and forth between them, uncertainty reflecting in her eyes. If we don't do something, they could be watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike. Exactly, Michael insisted, his voice lowering to a whisper. I can get us to a safe house for now. You'll hear everything I know, but we have to move fast. Jake glanced at Sarah, searching for some indication of her feelings. He could see fear still flickering behind her brave facade, but also a glimmer of hope. I don't like it, but if there's any chance to uncover the truth, we can't let fear paralyze us. I trust you, Sarah, but we need to make sure he's not leading us into a trap. Michael nodded, his eyes narrowing as if reading Jake's thoughts. Trust me, I'm not the enemy here. But we have to go now. With a deep breath, Sarah took Jake's hand again, a silent agreement passing between them. They were stepping into a darkness they couldn't fully understand, but they had each other. Strength from that bond fueled their willingness to take a chance. Okay, let us do this, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper but steady. As they turned to follow Michael, a troubling thought loomed in Jake's mind. What would they uncover in that safe house? Would the truths revealed bring them together or tear them apart? Before they left the park, shadows shifted around them, eavesdropping, lurking figures beyond the trees. The stakes escalated rapidly, and at the heart of their uncertainty rested a singular, ominous question. Was trusting Michael the first step toward their salvation or the beginning of an even greater danger? The air chilled as they followed Michael, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them like a thick fog. Each step felt heavier, laced with anticipation and dread. Sarah held on to Jake's hand tighter, her knuckles pale. He could feel her heart racing, matching his own tempo, an unspoken pact that they were in this together. Michael led them through a labyrinth of winding paths, the distant chatter of the park fading behind them. The streetlights flickered to life, casting long shadows that danced like specters, haunting prospects of what lay ahead. Jake stole glances at Michael, searching for signs of deceit, but finding only determination etched across his face. Where are we going? Sarah finally asked, breaking the silence that wrapped around them. A friend's place. He specializes in. Well, let us just say he has resources, Michael replied. His tone was clipped, urgency thrumming underneath. Trust me, it's secure and isolated. It's our best shot. Sure, if we can trust you, Jake shot back, still wary. What guarantees do we have that this friend isn't just another player in this sick game? Michael turned to Jake, his blue eyes intense. I know I messed up in the past, but I wouldn't put either of you in danger. Not again. The sincerity in his voice made Jake hesitate. Maybe there was still a flicker of the friend he once knew beneath that hardened exterior. They reached a nondescript building, its walls painted in muted colors, blending in with the street. This is it, Michael said, pushing open the door. Inside, the air was oddly warm and smelled faintly of coffee and old books. It felt strangely welcoming, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that brewed outside. As they stepped inside, Jake noticed the walls adorned with photographs, families laughing, friends celebrating milestones. A peculiar chill danced around him, a homesickness he had buried deep for too long. The notion of safety flickered within him, but he couldn't shake the thought that he had just stepped into a trap. Steve, Michael called out, and a tall man with graying hair emerged from a side room, eyebrows raised in surprise. We need a secure place to talk. Is everything okay? Steve's gaze darted between the three of them. Not exactly, Michael replied, his seriousness returning. We're in deep. We need answers. They shuffled into a cozy living room, the kind that felt untouched by the chaos beyond its walls. Jake felt a little more at ease, if only for a fleeting moment. He released Sarah's hand, gesturing for her to sit on the couch, while he took a spot on the chair across from her. "Tell us what you know." Michael finally broke the tense silence, his voice low but urgent. "We need to get out. Now." Jake's breath caught in his throat. His instincts screamed that whatever was happening outside was more than just a random break-in. "How? We just got here." Michael shot him a look that could freeze fire. "We have to trust each other, Jake. Remember what I said? They're already onto us. What are you waiting for?" Sarah's voice trembled, but there was a fire in her eyes. "Let us move." They rushed to the door. Michael peeked outside, his body tense like a coiled spring. "Clear, for now," he whispered, stepping back cautiously. "Stay close." Jake held on to Sarah's arm, his heart pounding louder than ever. Just outside the door, the echoes of footsteps and hushed voices sent chills down his spine. He could almost feel the danger closing in. They slipped out of the cozy room, the warmth quickly replaced by the coldness of looming threats. Just as they made it to the stairs, a flash of movement caught his eye. Figures lurking at the end of the hallway. Their faces were barely visible, but the sense of menace radiated from them. Jake's throat tightened. Fear clawed at him, wrestling with the need to protect Sarah. "We can't go that way," he whispered fiercely. "We need to find another exit." Michael's face darkened, a mix of resolve and fear. "The back exit leads to an alley. If we're quick, we can lose them." They navigated down the corridor. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a shout in a silent room. Jake's mind raced. Thoughts of running away flashed through him, but they were quickly replaced by thoughts of facing whatever was out there. As they reached the door to the back exit, suddenly, sunlight flickered from outside, casting shapes on the walls, strange, twisting forms that danced with shadows. "Go," Michael urged, swinging the door open. They slipped into the narrow alley. The smell of damp concrete mixed with the distant sounds of the bustling street beyond. For a moment, there was stillness, a break before the storm. But that didn't last long. The shouts grew closer, voices echoing off the walls. "Don't stop. Keep moving." Sarah's urgency snapped Jake back to the task. They pushed forward, adrenaline fueling their escape. Each hurried step carried the weight of their uncertainty. Emerging onto the street, they burst back into the daylight. The world felt strange again, vivid, alive, yet dangerously overwhelming. Jake paused to look around, scanning for any sign of danger. He caught Michael's eyes, reflecting not just fear, but a fierce determination to survive. "We need to blend in," Michael said, nodding toward a crowd gathering at a nearby food festival. "We can lose them there." They moved quickly, swimming through the throngs of people. The vibrant colors and delicious aromas distracted him momentarily from the panic rising in his chest. The laughter of families, children running with ice cream cones, and friends chatting animatedly, it felt like a different world from the dark threat chasing them. "Jake, over here." Sarah grabbed his sleeve as they ducked behind a booth selling hot pretzels. Her eyes darted nervously, and he could see her pulse racing, just like his. "Do you think we lost them?" Jake asked, trying to sound calm, even when every nerve screamed in worry. "I don't know," Michael whispered, scanning the crowd. The shadows they had escaped from felt like a tightening noose. But in that moment, Sarah stepped closer, grounding him with her presence. There was strength in their small circle, a bond formed by the chaos surrounding them. Just then, a hand brushed against Jake's shoulder. He turned, heart thundering. A stranger stood there, eyes wide with fear. "You're in danger," the man breathed. "They're looking for you." Jake felt his stomach drop. Were they somehow still in the crosshairs? "What do you mean?" Michael demanded, bracing for the worst. "The network, the one you've upset. They'll hunt you down unless you disappear for good." The stranger's urgency was palpable. Every moment stretched thick with uncertainty. Could they trust this man? Was he offering help, or just another piece of the trap? "Are you with them?" Jake whispered, petty hope battling against growing dread. "No. I want to help." The stranger shifted, eyes darting as though he expected pursuers at any moment. "But you don't have much time." With those words, Jake realized their situation was far worse than he thought. They weren't just running from a single threat. They had stirred something big, something dark. "What are we supposed to do?" The man leaned in closer, whispering urgently. "You need to follow me. It's the only way." As his heart raced with a mix of fear and urgency, Jake exchanged looks with Sarah and Michael. They had to decide. Would they take a leap into the unknown or risk everything by staying put? Jake felt the weight of their fate hang in the balance, a choice that could change everything. In a moment that felt like a lifetime, Jake's heart hammered against his ribcage. The urgency in the stranger's eyes spelled a decision they couldn't ignore. He glanced at Sarah, her wide gaze holding a mixture of fear and resilience. Beside her, Michael mirrored the tension, but beneath it lay a thread of determination. This was it. Let us do it, Jake said, breaking the silence that hovered heavily around them. The group shared a collective breath, a gathering of strength. Time was ticking, and they had to act. The stranger led them through pathways that twisted and turned. With every step, Jake felt the weight of the world pressing against him. Maybe they were running towards safety or diving deeper into the jaws of danger. As they entered a less crowded area, the chaos of the festival faded into the background. Jake could hear his heart as it raced, drowning out all other sounds. "How far is your place?" Sarah asked, her breath coming in hasty whispers. "Just a few blocks. Stay close, and don't draw attention," the man replied, urgency punctuating every syllable. The buildings around them loomed like silent witnesses, the shadows growing longer. Jake felt the weight of their choices, the shadows of their past echoing like a haunting lullaby. Finally, they reached an inconspicuous doorway, a side entrance that led down a narrow flight of stairs. "In here. Trust me." The stranger gave them a reassuring nod as they filed through the door, the hinges creaking softly in protest. Once inside, Jake felt a rush of cool air that enveloped them. The walls were lined with photos of family, a group of friends, all smiling. It felt like a sanctuary amidst chaos. Yet Jake couldn't shake the feeling of unease as they stepped further into the dimly lit space. "Welcome to my safe house," the stranger said, motioning to the small living area cluttered with maps and papers. "You're safe here, for now." Jake turned to him, seeking clarity amidst uncertainty. "Who are you, really? And what do you know about what is happening?" He paused, searching for exactly the right words. "My name is Thomas. I once worked for the network you've caught the attention of. I left when I realized the extent of their reach and what it had cost." "Cost?" Sarah's voice trembled, and Jake felt a pang of protectiveness swirl within him again. "They ruin lives. First, it's subtle, then it escalates. If you're under their radar now, you'll have to be very careful." Jake felt the knot in his stomach tighten. "What do you suggest we do?" "I'll help you gather intel. Find out exactly what they're planning," Thomas offered. "But you have to stay under the radar. No more public appearances, no calls." It was a lot to take in, but Jake felt a fire ignite in him. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect each other. Especially Sarah and Emma." "But Emma?" Sarah questioned, worry etching her features. "She has to be safe." "She has all I have." Jake leaned closer, taking her hands in his. "Trust me, she will be safe. We'll figure this out together. You and I, we're a team. The three of us." With determination boiling in the pit of his stomach, he turned back to Thomas. "What's our first step?" Thomas nodded, his demeanor shifting to one of focus. "You need to disappear from their sights for a bit. I know a guy who can help us make that happen. But it won't be easy. We'll need to act fast." "What about the project?" Sarah chimed in, her voice trembling slightly. "What will happen to everything we built?" "We'll bring it back," Jake assured her, infusing confidence into the words. "Nothing worth having comes easy. We'll go through the fire together if we have to." As they exchanged fierce glances filled with resolve, a new understanding unfolded. They were bound by purpose, resilience, and something that felt deeper than friendship. "We need to plan, but right now we wait," Thomas said. "No one can know you're here, not even your closest contacts. I'll reach out to my connections and see what is going on." Days turned into a whirlwind of training, preparations, and discussions that coated the dreariness of their predicament with fleeting moments of laughter. As they spent time together dealing with the ongoing tension, Jake could see new bonds form between them, a spark igniting in the face of fear. Late one night, as they huddled together in the cramped living space, speaking in hushed tones, a breath of warmth filled the room. Sarah's laughter trembled in the air as they shared stories, a brief escape from the gravity of their situation. "Guess I never expected our mission would involve hiding out in a safe house," Sarah joked, a playful glint dancing in her eyes. Jake couldn't help but smile. "If this is what it takes to keep you safe, I'll build a fortress just for us." As their laughter bubbled up, a feeling of hope emerged, a gentle light against the darkness lurking outside. But lurking shadows didn't wane. With every day that passed, they knew the hidden dangers were lurking just beyond their walls. Finally, the day arrived when Thomas returned, his expression grim but determined. We got news. They ramped up their plans. We need to act. It's time we turn the tables on this. As the weight of his words hung in the air, Jake felt the gravity of their moment. Would they stand together to fight against the looming darkness that threatened to swallow them whole? With hearts aligned, hands gripping tightly ready for what lay ahead, they knew they would take this on together. They had forged their own path built on trust, courage, and love. It was their moment to rise, not against one another but against the storm threatening to tear them apart. And with unyielding resolve and fierce determination, they plunged headfirst into that unknown battle, ready to reclaim everything they had fought for: hope, joy, and a life free from shadows. This was just the beginning of their transformation, a journey that would take them deeper into the heart of resilience and the strength of unity. As the first light of dawn broke, illuminating a new day, Jake felt the thrill of possibility. They would reclaim their lives even if it meant breaking through the bonds of fear that gripped them. With every step ahead, they were making their way towards something bigger than broken dreams, a courageous leap into the light that was theirs for the taking. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these journeys alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. We want to hear from you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation today. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. True fans know how important it is to support the channel.